All right, y'all. Man, this week has been hard because I really am trying to go deeper into some of these things. So this week we're going deeper into the hollowness, the void. Um, and today the part that I want to dive deeper into is that the hollowness was something that I thought it was proof that I shouldn't post. Right. That empty feeling that came after at some point uploading, like an album or whatever, and not getting the engagement and just thinking that it was pointless. Um, and that if it felt hollow, then it was hollow, like the content was hollow, and that meant that I should stop. Um, yeah, I was wrong about that. I think sometimes it's hard to admit when we're wrong about stuff. So here's what I'm trying to learn now is that the hollowness, it 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 wasn't the problem or like the issue. I think I mentioned this in another video that it was like a trigger, but I'm gonna use the word signal. I think it was a signal back then. And it was a signal that my body and my mind was trying to tell me that I didn't know why I was doing this. Um, I didn't know why I was doing it yet, and that stopping was the answer. Like, I thought that stopping was the answer, but it wasn't. It wasn't. Not stop doing this, or that this doesn't matter, or that I wasn't good enough. It was just to tell me that I didn't have a reason. And I think we tie reason to, like, purpose and validity and worth. And I don't think it needed to have that much depth at the time. There needed to be a why, but the why, it does have to be deep to an extent, but like, it didn't have to be all of that. It didn't have to be all those things. Um, but yeah, not stopping because I didn't have a reason, not just because the thing was hollow, right? That part wasn't the point. That wasn't the part that I was supposed to like harp on and let that be my reason for stopping. Um, and it's so funny because we have this saying, right, of like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Um, and that's exactly what I did. I saw the the check engine light on and said, "Oh, this car got to go." Like, isn't that crazy? But that's what happens when we wouldn't do that with a car or the baby because we put a lot more value into it, right? And I think that's the other piece. Maybe this is a whole nother video too, of just like value in the things that we enjoy doing, or value in our art, or value in the things that bring us joy. And that can be enough validity right there. It doesn't have to matter if anybody else thinks or whatever. Sorry, y'all, got ants on my feet. And that's why I'm like, the why didn't have to be so deep. I just needed to be clear on having a different why than what was the original reason why I was posting. Or at least something enough to not um feel that hollow feeling, you know? Um and that's what's taken me years to understand, quite frankly. Like, um the hollowness only really showed up when I was doing the thing as well. And I think that's another piece too of like, I let that kind of be the beginning of like starting, stopping projects. There's actually another reason beyond that. We'll talk about that later too. But that was a piece, right? There's always pieces of the puzzle that make the thing the bigger issue. Um, so this was just a small piece in the puzzle. And yeah, just like in doing the thing, I felt the hollowness. And the crazy part is like, yeah, I wouldn't have felt the hollowness if I wasn't taking action. I was finally taking action on something and then stopped because I felt this feeling. Um, but at that time I was putting in the work. I was doing more video editing than I do now. Um, I was showing up, and the emptiness that I felt, it was a response to the action, and it wasn't meant to be the reason to stop acting. And I think that's a distinction that I had to figure out, right? Um, and it's crazy because it's definitely one of those things that, like, if I were talking to myself like I was my best friend, I would never have let my best friend quit, off of something like that. Like, I know that, like we say, people shouldn't talk to ourselves, but we do. We need to have some self talk, some positive self talk, not toxic positivity. We're not about that, but sometimes I have to. I've been working on my self talk, and this is one of those things where it's like, for a long time, like I said, I would start and stop projects for various reasons. And this was one of those things where, like, I thought about going back to it, but didn't have my why. Um, and I still felt that hollows. I felt like I was just going to be performing, and I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to be a performative person. So, yeah, yeah. The other piece of this as well that I have I have been being honest with myself about, and I have been slowly working on it. I do need to probably put some more um time into it, but when I mentioned earlier that the hollowness was a signal, it was an indicator, it was my gut, right? It was my gut speaking. And I have, for a long time, been pretty bad about listening to my gut, listening to my instincts. And so I have been trying to figure out what that looks like and how to listen to it more. I've been trying to do that somewhat in tandem with um, really kind of discovering what my femininity looks like as well. Not that those things necessarily need to go together, because men have instincts or intuition as well. And, you can do that through a masculine energy as well. But I guess for me, I wanted to do it in tandem with um, figuring out what femininity meant and looked like for me. Um, and so, yeah, I have had issues in the past of like trusting my gut or trusting something that, felt off or whatever. Just kind of listening to myself. Um, and I think that was one of those indicators back then, was the hollowness, and I just did not listen to it. I received the signal and ignored it. I'm very good at rationalizing things away, intellectualizing things, logifying things. Like, um, I have definitely had moments in my life where I have been more um, like a mind person, or a head person, in the logic sense. And then I have also been um, the kind of person in different points of my life where I've been like, what do they call it? The heart person, like going off, um, mm, is emotions the word I want to use there, or just like kind of impulses, honestly. Um, yeah, that's what we're gonna go with. That's what we're gonna go with. So yeah, I gotta do better about listening to my intuition, um, listening to those signals and giving them the space that they deserve. Um, yeah, that's something I got to work on still. But yeah, for the hollowness, I think it was a signal. It was a signal, and back then I didn't give it the space that it needed. I just overrode it or just misinterpreted it. It was like using an opinion as fact. Um, yeah, but I do think back to like one of my last videos where I said like the hollowness. I'm glad that it happened though. So like really the hollowness, that signal, it was a gift. It was a gift that I didn't want. Y'all ever get a gift on Christmas or your birthday or whatever holiday gift giving holidays that you may observe, and you get a gift that you don't want? Um yeah, I am glad because like I said before in a previous video that if I hadn't have stopped, at least at that time, I could have just kept posting and just felt like it was not, it would have been performative. And I just don't want to be that person. Do not want to be that person at all. Um, so yeah, the wholeness was a signal that I misread, misspoke on, misinterpreted, confused the language barrier for. Yeah. And so I think that's why just like I wanted to go deeper into this and give this that space today because clearly in the past I had not. Um and it is overdue. It is well overdue. Um and I think if I were to have acted on it in the past or like moving forward when I think about future signals that I may get, um I think I did need to pause, right? I needed to pause and figure out my why, but the pausing didn't need to be a stop forever. I think throughout all of our lives, we have these moments where the ebbs and flows, the roller coaster swirly swirls. I think we all have come to the conclusion nowadays that like life is not a big ladder that they or staircase like we were kind of taught to believe, and as long as you take the next step up everything's gonna go the way you want it to. No, it's a big ass spiral. It's a big spiral with all kind of loop-de-loops and turns that we are not ready for, but we go through them anyway. And so I think that moving forward, if I feel something like that again, I just need to give it the space that it deserves to figure out what that signal is telling me, um, but not to let it completely stop me like it did before. Just long enough to ask and answer the questions. Just make sure I'm asking the right questions. Yeah. Um, just enough to listen to my gut, listen to my intuition, to the signals, and give it space when it needs it. Um, because also just yeah, at that time I just hadn't learned how to do that yet. And I can't I can't beat myself up for past me, um, and the mistakes or the immaturity or just, not having known the lessons that were needed to be learned at the time. What I can do is learn them now, pay attention to them now, like maybe not be near an ant pile. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I'm glad that it happened. I just wish that I hadn't let the pause be a stop. So, my question for you all is maybe two questions. Is there ever a time that you felt something and overrode it, ignored it, put it on a pedestal? What was that thing? And then, if you feel a hollowness now, in the past, what do you think it was a signal for? Was it a signal to pause? Was it a signal to stop? Or was it something else? Let me know.